The amazing BBC broadcast that you have just listened to shows us many examples of the ways in which discourse modes assemble in concrete genres. We listen to the correspondents and identify in their speech how all 5 discourse modes form ensemblages to carry out their communicative purpose, which is to share their dearest bits of poetry with the audience. We can identify examples of narrative, descriptive, interactional, reporting, and instructing modes astonishingly combined so as to form coherent wholes. These language exponents help us depict our present-day situation and different situations in our daily lives globally as members of our world in times of COVID-19 pandemic. Discourse modes can be characterized and distinguished in terms of their relationship to the world and also by their internal linguistic features. They relate to time and place in different ways to create meanings within specific genres. Throughout history, linguists have referred to discourse modes and categorized them differently. In this presentation, I am going to refer to discourse modes as analyzed by Stephen Bax, and I will provide examples to illustrate the main ideas presented for each of the 5 discourse modes proposed by Bax. Let me pass on to the first one that I would like to refer to in this presentation, the reporting mode. The reporting mode is a discourse mode characterized by an account of situations from the temporal standpoint of the reporter. Reporting modes are mainly concerned with events and states. The difference with narrative modes lies in the fact that in a report, the relation to speech time determines temporal advancement. The speaker is central, since a report is assumed to be relating events from the standpoint of the person doing the reporting. The reporting mode is characterized by deictic verbs and implicit reference to the place of speaking. Also, it is possible to identify a deictic use of the present perfect tense, deictic noun phrases, adverbs of time, and deictic adverbs of place. There is therefore a frequency of deictic terms that is particular to this specific mode. The next mode I would like to refer to is the describing mode. It is a pre-generic form that tends to focus on specific objects, people, and mental states. Time is static or suspended. There are no significant changes or advancements. The entities introduced in descriptions are usually states or ongoing events. Descriptive passages progress spatially through a scene. They are characterized by frequent use of intensive verbs such as be, become, seem, appear. Also, they contain a frequent use of the verb have to describe features. Another typical feature is the use of verbs in the present simple or past to describe current situations, or other verbal forms such as the present progressive to describe ongoing situations and activities. It is also possible to find descriptive adjectives and adverbs of frequency to describe actions. The peculiarity of describing discourse mode is that the main focus is on people, places, and things rather than events. Let me now pass on to the instructing mode. It is the language of human action as passed on by one subject to another or others, so as to convey a mechanism of action or activity for pedagogic, work, or any other purpose that ensures the passing on of valued knowledge on how to carry out a task that is of interest to the people in question. The instructing mode is a pre-generic form of language characterized by the frequent use of imperative forms, of verbs in the present simple tense to describe typical actions, and the use of adjectives to specify aspects of elements to be used, as well as adverbs of frequency to tell the order of events. Let us now pass on to this task. Identify instances of the main discourse mode present in these news reports. Note the structural aspects of language and the main modes of thought and discourse present in the extracts, that is, the ways of interpreting the world and of drawing meaning from interactions within the world that these extracts convey.
Take some soap, create a lather, clean the back of your hands, in between your fingers, the end of your fingers, your thumb, again your palms, your wrist and the top of your hand again. Rinse the soap from your hands. Turn off the tap with the tissue to prevent cross-contamination. And then you discard of the tissue into a bin.
As you certainly must have noticed, this is an example of an instructing mode.
The two main symptoms of coronavirus to look out for are a continuous dry cough and/or a fever. Now, some people say they've lost their senses of smell and taste because of COVID-19, but the research on this is still at an early stage. Also, other viruses can make this happen too, like the common cold, so it doesn't necessarily mean you have this new coronavirus. So how high a fever is a coronavirus one, and what exactly is a continuous dry cough? Well, it's when you cough and there's no mucus or phlegm, basically no gooey substance in your tissue. And this means coughing a lot for more than an hour or having 3 or more coughing episodes in a single day. This dry cough can also then lead to breathing problems. But how high a fever is a coronavirus fever? If you have one of these, you will know about it. Technically, it's a body temperature of more than 37.8 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Fahrenheit. But if you've not got a thermometer, basically you will feel hot and your chest and back would be hot if someone touched you. If you have either of these symptoms, the advice in the UK is that you need to stay at home for 7 days, and the people you live with can't leave the house for 2 weeks. If your symptoms start to get worse or you still have them after 7 days, then people living in the UK should use the NHS 111 online coronavirus service, and they'll tell you what to do next. If you live abroad, you should follow the directions given by your local healthcare provider.
This example contains many instances of a describing mode.
Chancellor, could you give us your response to this rather gloomy report from the OBR?
Well, the OBR is independent of government, and as they've said, this is just one potential scenario. But I'd make 3 points. I think firstly, look, it's clear this will have a very significant impact on our economy, and like common with economies around the world, and it's important that we're honest about that. People should know that there's hardship ahead. We won't be able to protect every job or every business, as I've said. I think the second point is clear. The report makes clear that the actions we've taken, unprecedented actions, will help to mitigate the impact of the virus on our economy, and that will, if we hadn't done these things, it would mean that things are a lot worse. For example, the impact on unemployment. And the last point to make is it's clear we must defeat this virus as quickly as possible. That's not a choice between health and economics. That defies common sense. What we need is just to follow the rules, and I'm grateful to everyone for doing that over the Easter weekend.
Can I just ask you briefly about one of the mitigating measures that you took, the business loan scheme? There has been a woefully small number of companies who have been able to take advantage of those business loans. Who's to blame for that, and what are you doing to put it right?
Well, I'm speaking to the banks every single day. What I'm improving over the weekend is that all the banks had their staff in over Easter weekend helping to process the backlog. There was an overwhelming demand early on. That backlog is being worked through, so I think you'll see the numbers tick up considerably into the thousands this week, which will be comforting. It's something that we're looking at very closely. And what I would say as well is the acceptance rates on applications, the data we're getting through are actually reasonably high, and also banks are extending overdrafts. But you're absolutely right, getting credit to small and medium-sized businesses is a critical part of our plan. It's something that we are watchful of every single day, and working with the banks to make sure that that happens.
Most of the Chancellor's speech contains instances of the reporting mode.